myself. So my name's Esther and I work at St Nick's as Charity Support Manager.
Can I just check you can see the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Yep. So I'm Sam Taylor, Waste and Recycling Manager at St Nick's. I've not actually done a presentation via Zoom before and already feeling like I'm on the back foot because I locked you all out accidentally. So I'm very sorry. Hopefully that will be our only blip. So, Precious Plastic York. We're hoping we're going to kickstart the plastic revolution in York. It is a St Nick's project. So St Nick's is the Green Heart of York. We're a 24-acre nature reserve, 1 mile from the city centre. It's a beautiful nature reserve, so do visit it if you can. But we're not here to talk about that today. So Esther and I have already introduced ourselves. We did the poll, which I can share the results, I think. Quite interesting how many of you hadn't heard of Precious Plastic York. So clearly we need to do a bit more work on that. And plastic is plastic a waste scapegoat. Hopefully I will explain what that means in my slides later on. If not, do give me a shout. Esther went over housekeeping. We are going to do a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So if you want to ask us anything, just pop any questions in the chat or stick your hand up and we'll get around to you. We can't actually see many of you because the cameras are off, which is fine. But just pop it in the chat. So today we're going to cover the plastic problem, what Precious Plastic York is. Sorry, I'm just trying to rearrange my screens. We've got a little video about Precious Plastic York, what we've done so far. Then Esther's going to talk about how our Precious Plastic York project fits into the wider precious plastic community, where you might want to get involved. And then we'll have the opportunity for you to ask us any questions. So, Esther.
So you'll probably be answering these yourselves as we go through the presentation. So, what do these symbols mean? Have a think about this. How many main categories of plastic are there? Just have a little think to yourself. True or false? All plastics are easily recyclable, can't say. And like the last one's a real toughie. Precious Plastic York is based on an international movement I'd like to get involved with. So not sure about that. So have a bit of a think about that and we'll come to the answers as we move through the presentation.
Thank you. So the plastic problem. Not all plastic is bad. And the point of Precious Plastic York isn't to make you all run and clear out all your cupboards and chuck everything away. What we want to do is make people aware of the variety of plastics available and help you make better informed choices. So the main problem when we're talking about the plastic problem is our disposable and throwaway culture. As a society, we've got used to the convenience of single-use and disposable products, plastics primarily, and these are the problem ones, the unnecessary plastics that we use for minutes and then they last for decades in our ecosystems. So if you've got single-use plastics sitting around at home, don't feel guilty, don't immediately go and throw them all away. Use them up. If you don't want to use them up, donate them. Other people will still make use of them. Recycle what you can, reuse what you can, and then stop buying it. That's the key thing. There's plenty of options and alternatives. In York, we're really lucky that there's a fantastic zero waste movement. So we've got plenty of zero waste shops now. And we've actually got a Facebook group, Zero Waste York, where you can share tips and not just plastic, but any waste item you're struggling with. But the main priority for us as Precious Plastic York is to start conversations. Why is there so much unnecessary plastic around? So the first hurdle, regulation. There's no regulation across sectors. Any manufacturer who wants to package an item can do so however they want. If they need to solve a particular problem, say the strawberries are going off too fast, they're going off before they hit the shelves, it's cheaper for them to hire their in-house chemistry team to come up with a solution than it is to buy someone else's solution. They do this by adding chemicals that they call additives to the plastic. and they don't have to share that information. So then the people that are recycling it obviously aren't the same people that are making it. And to be able to recycle it, you need enough of the exact same type of plastic. Otherwise, the costs just go through the roof. So it's cheaper then to do this work in-house as a company that manufactures the materials, but it's also cheaper then to buy virgin material. So material that's never been used before, dig up the oil, you know, chop down a forest or whatever it might be. The other issue about regulation is there's no regulation for the use of the swoosh or the Mobius symbol. So those two symbols here on the screen. People often think, I don't want to make assumptions about you guys and your understanding of the symbols, but people think these two symbols mean that it's recyclable. You can put it in your curbside recycling service. Unfortunately, that's not true. It just, all those symbols mean is that that material can be recycled somewhere in the country. And it's up to you then as the consumer to find out how you access that service, which often you can't physically do. In terms of plastics should always have a little embossed triangle. It's normally tiny and really impossible to see. And inside that triangle will be a number. The number tells you which of the 7 main types of plastic. Esther is beeping at me. Thank you. So that little triangle with the number tells you what of the 7 main types. I produced this guide for York, so this is specific to York. But if you use the website Recycle Now, it's got this really cool feature where you can search by location or by material, and it'll tell you your nearest recycling points. For most local authorities and most councils, the most cost-effective and easiest to recycle plastic are types 1 and 2. So typically they're the only ones that you can accept curbside. Again, it's then on us as consumers to, feels like trekking around town, getting to all the various bring banks and type 4, you know, bread bags, freezer bags, fruit and veg bags, that kind of thing, getting them to a supermarket recycling point. So it's not as easy as people might hope. Another big factor in England is who pays for the recycling process. In the UK, we operate on a consumer pays system. So it's your council tax that pays for the recycling of the packaging. In some other countries, such as Berlin, the producer of the plastic pays for the recycling. And the governments in those countries deliberately price landfill and incineration, because they're the least favourable processing options, they price those higher. So for the producers of the waste, it's much cheaper to make their packaging recyclable and standardise it across sectors. We, because we don't work that way, don't have those incentives in place. So it's down to each company and their own ethics or ethos to make that possible. Another big part of our project is encouraging circular thinking. So we want to go from our current system, which is a linear model, which is make, use and dispose, or you might have heard it as take, make, dispose, into a circular economy where we keep resources in use as long as possible, extracting maximum value throughout its life. And then only then when it's like fully dead, those components can then be recycled and restart that process, making waste as a whole obsolete. When you've recycled as much as you can, or you think you're recycling as well as you can, what happens? Landfill or incineration. If you can find out what your plastic is made from, specifically what additives have been used in the production, it should be recyclable. As I said, typically it's only types 1 and 2. So anything other than that you're putting in your bin in York goes to the incinerator, and then the waste from the incinerator goes to a toxic landfill site, unfortunately. So every single one of us is sending waste in some form or another to landfill, which means we're wasting millions of tons of resources every year. And that's not just the material itself as a resource, but the resources that have gone into producing it, into transporting it. It's not a good system. If your local authority does use incineration, those resources are lost to us forever. There's loads of really cool research projects going on at the minute, developing robots and equipment that will go into landfill sites and actually mine resources so that we can then make use of them, because obviously technology has advanced quite a bit. So materials that weren't recyclable 50 years ago, or weren't easily recyclable 50 years ago, are now recyclable. In an ideal world, this system all works flawlessly. We recycle as much as we can, we reuse as much as we can. Unfortunately, though, there's a lot of human error involved. Consumers don't always use the right bin for the right material. People litter, bins get blown over, recycling loads get contaminated. Even if you think you're doing it, I get a lot of people, in my job as the waste and recycling manager at St Nick's, I get a lot of people contacting me saying they deliberately put the wrong stuff in their bin to raise awareness, that, you know, and to say, I want to be able to recycle this. But the people that make those decisions, even if they have the power to make that decision, they don't get that information. So it's really not, it's not the right way to do it. And increasing the contamination rates risks the whole load of recycling going straight to an incinerator. The more effort these companies and local authorities have to go make to process and clean your materials, the more expensive it gets. And that virgin, clean, fresh material becomes more and more attractive. So, precious plastic York. I've got a video. Hopefully this works. Nope. Yeah. Oh, it's supposed to have a little jingle. I'm sorry. I'm so proud of that video. One of my team, Mark, actually made that for us. Progress then for Precious Plastic York. We launched a crowdfunder in November 2020, which raised £9,186.75, including gift aid. The total on the website isn't actually accurate because we got quite a few donations after the window had closed. If you would like to donate, you still can. There is donate buttons on our Facebook page, the St Nick's Facebook page, and you can donate through our website. You could even run your own fundraiser, get in touch. We really want to collaborate with as many people as possible on this project. We had loads of rewards available. Our two most popular were coasters. So these are made from plastic bottles, and I'm really quite pleased with how most of them came out. There were a few duff ones, but that's the point of the project, it's all about learning. And our patches so people can upcycle and show their support. So yeah, so the December, the crowdfunder ended. We do have loads of face-to-face rewards that are going to happen as soon as we can. Workshops, family sessions, waste audits. I know Esther and I are both really excited to get on the ground and host those. In the meantime, we are working with a local university to source and build the machinery. We need to be quite specific about that because we need it to be absolutely 100% safe for anyone that uses it. So hopefully we'll be in schools. We've got our own ecotherapy projects and things that all want to be involved. So we want anyone to be able to use the machinery safely, and we want to make sure it can actually do what we want it to do in terms of recycling plastic. So we hope to get a shredder. So the shredder was in the video. So it's basically a hopper. You pour the plastic in the top and it granulates it. It turns it into little pieces. Then we'll get an injection molder. So that uses heat and pressure to squeeze the plastic into molds that we'll have to make. And the final machine we hope to get is an injection molder. So that will use heat to basically turn the plastic into a string, which is then moldable but really strong. I'm very excited about the injection molder. The extruder will be fun, but I'm too much of a perfectionist to work with this string too well, I think. Esther's now going to tell you how the project will fit into the wider community, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you. And I just chucked in the chat a link to our Precious Plastic York Facebook group, which is a place to start these community conversations even. So beautifully put by Sam, the plastic problem. So yes, we can all strive to be zero waste. It's kind of tough. It's really hard to avoid using plastic, and actually, what about things like the packaging before it gets to the shop? So it's kind of intrinsic in our society. So it kind of feels like there's a point between, you know, trying to be zero waste and ignoring everything and just using virgin product. Like, what if we were to see plastic as a useful resource and that we could work as a community to solve the problem? So as we had it in the video, a local solution to the problem. So this is from a global community that was started in Holland as a way of taking a kind of design thinking, circular economy approach to the plastic problem. Me and Sam were chatting just before this session and saying, yes, of course we don't want there to be any plastic at all anywhere, but here we are, it's in our environment, it's being produced, how could it be used to our advantage? And as well as making sure we're not using virgin material, we're making sure we're doing that very, very high quality recycling. You know, we're not satisfied with the plastic that we ourselves recycle at St. Nick's. Like, where does it go? We don't have control over that. It's kind of a bit heartbreaking, really. So actually, isn't it the case that together we can make a lot of small changes where we can all contribute to a really different way of looking at the problem? So this is my favourite, I was bang on about this, this is my favourite Precious Plastic slide ever. You know, the Dutch approach is that they provide open source designs for people to set up their own workspaces, so that whether that's injection, shredder, sheet press, extrusion, or all of them, to make the machines themselves. And they encourage you through things like the graphics and the videos they have, their own platforms, to actually work together, to band together, make things, make designs, reach local people, sell objects, and making sure then that the materials are used to their best, you know, the absolute maximum with the least waste possible. Also, by the way, making sure that you're not generating carbon by getting something new from, say, China. So it's really trying to think in a bit of a different way. And for me, one of the most important things is we're not aiming here to make lots and lots of plastic stuff that we don't need. We want to actually think through, you know, what is the design of objects? Can the way we design things actually lead to more sustainable behaviours? So it is a bit of a kind of getting your head around, because I think we're so used to thinking, oh, plastic is bad. But it's like, well, actually, can we work together to really think about on-the-ground solutions? So next slide, please. Yeah, so, yeah, kind of repeating myself here, but I really love this Instagram pictures from Precious Plastic Lancaster, who are quite a bit further down the way than we are. And it's just dead simple, but someone's brought along a broken stool, and look, they've made a beautiful upcycled precious plastic top to fix it. Fantastic. So it's about rethinking our relationships with waste and change behaviours. So there's something there. It's not just about a bit of upcycled plastic. You look at all of that metal as well. They haven't just chucked out that seat and, you know, gone and got something new from IKEA. So it's, you know, really thinking about that kind of make, do, amend approach. That sort of, I've heard people call it that mid 20th century living approach. So like, how do we take care of things and fix things? Yeah, and yeah, this really important bit about engaging with different disciplines to find solutions to every bit of the problem. So it's not just one thing. It's about, what about, what elegant solutions might we have to approach different processes, to improve them and use as much sustainable material as possible. So radical and creative solutions for waste reduction that are centred in the community. So yeah, next slide, please. Collection point. It's kind of exciting to say, oh, it'd be really great. You can wash your own plastic and bring it to us. That's a really nice idea. We have quite a lot of plastic already. We do collect quite a lot on a daily basis. Nothing motivates you more than collecting tons and tons of mainly milk bottles to think there's got to be a better way of doing this. But that is something you could also do. So you could be thinking in your localities about collecting specific kinds of plastic, maybe the more hard to recycle plastic as well. And as I said, we're just really not satisfied about where it goes when it leaves us. Next slide, please. So we want to become a workshop space. It's not us yet. As we mentioned, we're going to have a shredder, an extruder, and a compressor. We are talking to a local university to think a little bit creatively about the machines we get. So we have at times thought that our funds might stretch to a 3D printer, for instance. So that's all being discussed at the moment. That's a little bit way above my head in terms of technicality. But the point of having different ways to make different objects. If you look at the top shelf of this picture, there's a kind of wiggly item. So that's like a vase-like item. So that's made by an extruder. So, you make beautiful kind of spiral bird feeders and things like that. The more kind of marbly effect things can be made more by compressors. So things like our coaster, for instance, was made by a compressor-like process. We don't have the machines yet. Yes, it's about making and selling products. It's much more to us really about educational sessions or allowing people to try out their ideas in the space. Maybe a new kind of social session, given the current times that we're in, and connecting people. So we will come to, thanks for the question, we will come to questions at the end. So design studios, it's really interesting. I've been involved with a few innovation courses recently and talking to designers who are becoming more and more aware, yes, for ethical reasons of sustainability, but also for financial reasons, because designers are always looking at those processes and trying to work out how to obviously maximise resources. So they're very, very well placed to think about and come up with solutions. They also prototype things. So if they're able to do that using more sustainable resources like our shredded plastic, why not? So it's thinking about who would be interested in different parts of the project. The other thing that's coming up a lot recently because of the COVID situation is the amount of people who are becoming involved in home delivery. So actually a lot of people are now looking for a sustainable solution for something like, I spoke to a florist who was saying, well, I don't like giving out plastic to put my flowers in. I'd much rather pay a couple more quid to have something that someone can keep that's sustainable, which can then be put back into our shredder and made into something else again. So it's reaching the not obvious people. That's part of why we want to work with designers. Thank you. Next one, please. And just really thinking in diverse ways about local people. So a lot of York shops, like Sam mentioned, how lucky we are to have people who are very actively interested in zero waste and would support us from that angle. But people are interested in local products, attractive artisan products, something that's made in York. Mention people who might want to try out new ideas. This could be a fun activity. This could be a bit like, the old pottery cafes where you go and make your own piece of material. And because of our machines are portable and can be spaced out, we can even take them outside. So as we're wrestling with the tears, we have something a little bit different to do. Yeah, COVID secure, outside space, safely maximise the number of people who can take part. Thank you. So there's also the people who really champion what we do and spread the word. And I think that's really important because it does take, for me, it takes a little while to get your head around the concept of like, why are you doing stuff with plastic? So, you know, supporting our crowdfunding, starting conversations in their own organisation about reducing waste. And so, you know, some quite big places like Aviva, really looking at waste, really looking at how they can do things differently, becoming aware that recycling in itself isn't going to cut it. So, you know, what could those organisations do? Which bit of the project could they really get involved in in-house, you know? Could they come and try stuff with us? Or is it something they could set up? Obviously, our activists are going to be proud owners of our beautiful, precious plastic York badges, just to spread the word. Thank you. So the point being here that, yes, it's about upcycling waste. Of course, that's important. And we think we would save, you know, some waste and some carbon through the products we make. It's going to have far, far bigger impact through the education work that we're planning to do in the ways that we mentioned. And we estimate that that will be the equivalent of the carbon sequestered by 1,670 seedlings grown over 10 years. So really thinking about, you know, yes, it's what we do, but it's about spreading the word that's going to make the biggest difference. So, any questions? There was one in the chat. Should we go with that one first? I think this is one for Sam. What PET product are you using for this project?
So far, we've focused on PET and HDPE. The coasters are made out of bleach bottles because for some reason we all like really, well, people who use bleach like fancy coloured bleach bottles. I don't know why. Maybe it's so they stand out so you don't accidentally use it for anything else. So we picked bleach bottles for that just because of the colours available. In terms of going forwards, I tried melting clear plastic and it did not work. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know what was different about the clear plastic. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with milk bottles. I'm really curious to find out. I'm concerned they go a bit cloudy. Like Esther said, making these, I don't recommend you do it. You need a lot of ventilation, but basically melt them and then use like a C-clamp from a car engine and a weight to compress it all in a tin can. So it wasn't efficient. It wasn't as safe or clean as the methods we'll be using when we've got our equipment. But as soon as we get that equipment, we're going to start experimenting and we're going to have a lot of fun doing so. We've also got the Biorenewable Development Centre involved, who I believe they're part of York University, who are checking that every process we're going to be using, and like me melting bleach bottles in my kitchen, is safe and that we can take this equipment into schools, and there's not going to be any horrible fumes or anything else that's going to put anyone at risk at any stage. So whilst we are going to experiment and we're going to use carrier bags, because obviously they're really hard to recycle, and everything else, the Biorenewable Centre will be keeping a close eye on what we're doing and making sure it's safe, as well as our claims that everything's going to be recyclable again at the end of its life, because we don't want to make stuff that then you end up sending to landfill when it would have been recycled in the first place. So yeah, at the minute, we've only used bleach bottles. We've had a few experiments with carrier bags, using an iron actually, and that actually it worked better than we expected, but when we get the machinery we'll know to a much better degree with more confidence what we can play with going forwards.
And I think just to kind of add to that, I think that is the kind of you know, the heart and soul of the project, isn't it? It's like we'll start with the, you know, we're going to start off, try things out, but it's that design thinking. So, you know, it's looking for the best solution, and it is that kind of experimental, innovative approach that we're wanting to take. So I'll take Joel's question. So hi, Joel. Thanks for nice to see you. Your questions around funding. So I can kick off on that. So Joel says, I'd like to ask about funding and assistance for other groups wanting to become a PP. So I'll go for the easy bit first, which is other assistance. So I think there's a few different things. The website of Precious Plastic, which I'll put in the chat in a second, it's just got so much resource on there. In fact, your problem's going to be wading through it and working out which bits you want to use. So in terms of all of the setup and all the rest of it, that's the real emphasis of the project. They want to make all of that information very, very available. The other bit of support is how we link together. So there's a UK precious plastic website, Facebook, and we're trying to create those local links as well. So it's like, let's all talk to each other, let's keep talking. There's Precious Plastic Staffordshire, there's Lancashire, there's some other places like the Plastic Shed. So it's kind of making friends through people who are out there doing it.
And just to add to that, everyone we've spoken to about getting set up has been so generous with their time and sharing the little pitfalls they've experienced and stuff. So definitely reach out to people and us. Yes,
come talk to us. Maybe we should do one of these for people who are wanting to do precious plastics. Maybe that's something we could do. In terms of funding, we went for it in terms of the crowdfunding. Really real learning curve, but it was, I don't know, can I say this with a straight face, it was fun, kind of. One of the benefits of it is it did spread the word as well, but we were quite bowled over, the people who contributed. Loads of things to learn about crowdfunding, happy to talk about that separately, but one thing I didn't know about, which we managed to capitalise on, was that there's a lot of match funding. So when you set up your crowdfunder, you'll have all these different match funders, and there'll be stuff about environmentalism or young people or whatever it is. So we had Marks and Spencer's matched what we got. So although we raised, was it 8 in the end? So we raised 4 of our own, but I know it was more than 4 of our own. Yeah. But anyway, we got some money from Marks and Spencer's. So it is doable, I think. And, obviously it's scalable in terms of, do you just want a shredder? Do you want to extrude? You could start off and then kind of go back to your funding. We also got a little tiny bit of money off St Nick's as well, which is very welcome. And we're currently working with LOP University to see if we can get that part of their innovation fund. So it's that, and also just small community grants. It's looking at your project, I think, and looking at how it's not just one thing, it is doing different things. So if you're doing events, they could be minimising social isolation, for instance. So you might be able to get a grant to do with that. So happy to talk further, but hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour of our approach.
I spotted a question about the coasters. I'm not sure what the lifespan will be. They're really solid. I don't know if you can see that. We checked with the people that take the plastic from the St Nick's collections. They were more than happy to recycle them because they are all just the same material. We've not added anything to it. We've literally just squashed it. We've heated it up and squashed it. We checked with Your Waste, who processed the plastic from City of York Council's curbside service. They again were very happy to recycle them. So I'm confident that these are recyclable at the end of their life in York. If you're not in York and you did get one, I'd recommend checking with your local provider. Same as any material, unfortunately. But yeah, in terms of end of life, send it back to us. We'd be very happy to recycle it for you, or stick it in your curbside if you get a York collection. Imogen, hello. Be very excited to meet you. If you do come to York, you'd be very welcome to get involved. We want as many people as possible involved. And if that's coming up with ideas or telling us where you think we're going wrong, we're open to it all. If it's not a community project, it's not going to work. We need it to get the momentum to get the wide-scale behaviour change happening. We're not based on York campus, but we're literally, 15-minute walk away?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I think it's that thing of, okay, so come and play with what we've got, have a look at how it's going, and then think about what would you be able to do. So I'm sure there will be other like-minded people at York Uni, and we've got links at the university that we're having to build up.
Thank you for reminding people that carrier bags, bread bags, veg bags are collected by big supermarkets. They did stop it at one point, unfortunately, during the pandemic, but they are all back now, especially if you're in York. If you want the plastic guide that I put together, it is available as a download, as a PDF from the St Nick's website. And like I said, there is Recycle Now, the website where you can search by material or by your location to find your nearest recycling points for any material, not just plastic. Would you recommend collecting carrier bags for this process? Not yet. Until we know what we found in the past when we've tried to recycle something new is people get really excited that they can support a local charity as well as recycling extra material, and we get absolutely swamped in it. And until we know how we can process it and how well it works, we won't be able to accept donations of materials yet. So if you can carry on taking it to the recycling points for now, as soon as we can accept or have worked out the processes, we'd be happy to accept donations. One of the big things we thought for the workshops actually was that people can bring their own materials. So they bring, a milk bottle or a carrier bag, and then they get to take away something shiny and new at the end of it. Bit Blue Peter style, I think is what we keep saying. So yeah, hopefully. Sorry, trying to read.
I think Joel leads on nicely from what you were saying about kids, is Joel's question about making it safe for young children. So absolutely, it's not something you can just kind of slap out there and expect it to go swimmingly. Quite a lot of the innovation work we're doing with the local Uni of Hull is we're looking at what the processes would be. So Sam mentioned around the actual kind of materials, but we're thinking from the viewpoint of like a learning lab, what do we have to look out for? So some shredders don't really have much guard on them, so we'd have to make those super safe. So rather than having like a hopper like that, we'd have to have a hopper where you kind of can't ram your hand down it. So that's the work we're currently investigating. So that means there's a lot of process mapping, looking at it from an expert point of view, and also the wraparound of what are kids getting out of it. So what's the sort of education process as well? How does that link to curriculum? But yeah, dead right, you're going to have to think very carefully about how you make them accessible. And I don't think many people have. So that's the bit we're doing slightly differently.
Yeah, I think it's key that the designs that are available on the Precious Plastic website, the open source designs, they assume it's adults of a certain level of mechanical understanding that are using the machinery, rather than anybody. So yeah, like Esther said, we will have to change the designs to put angles in so that people can't get their hands anywhere near moving parts, installing guards, installing emergency cut-offs, making sure everything's well ventilated and safe. And I just thought as well, like the height of the machinery, so that kids can actually access it and work it. So there is a lot to it, but we'd be more than happy to share anything. We're actually speaking to a consultant, a specialist about it, who's going to produce a report for us. So we'd be more than happy to share anything like that with you, Joel.
So we've got one here from Harriet. How long does the process take of using machines to make the recycled product? So are we talking from literally, you've got a load of manky plastic. So the first thing to do would be to wash it. Then we'd have to shred it, and then it would take different amounts of time. So in terms of the coasters, how long do they take you to make? And then how much better would we expect that to be if that was using our compressors, our shredders and compressors?
Depends how distracted you get by the TV. So, in terms of, like Esther said, in terms of making it with the machinery, it depends how small you want to granulate. I don't have it, I sent them all out, but I experimented with really, really fine plastics for some of the coasters. And the colours were much more blended, like a bit like that one. And they melted much faster. The bigger ones, the colours stayed more separate. So it depends what design you're going for and that kind of thing. But for the coasters, from start to finish, I could, because I was doing it in blocks, so melting a big thing, and then I cut it into slices because I didn't want to use my oven for like 3 days straight. I'd say about 3 hours from start to finish. That's washing the bleach bottles, chopping them up into small pieces, melting them, cutting them, posting them out.
And then with the machine, it would probably be, I think we were estimating about 40 minutes, weren't we?
Yeah.
And I think it also depends on what kind of finish you want and what kind of plastic you're using. So with the sort of, kind of lower melting point, which ones we'll probably concentrate on to begin with, they don't have a particularly shiny finish anyway, so you save a little bit of time that way. But I mean, you know, you see some objects they've made that's like art on the Precious Plastics website where they've made over days and days. So anywhere between 40 minutes and days is the answer. But we will be going for more than 40 minutes for the activities, for the workshops.
You'll have to come and have a go, Harriet. So what is your end game?
I'll definitely come and have a go.
Please do. It'll be so much fun. What is your end game? Raising awareness by doing fun projects, basically. We want to array. For me, a big issue is like the material science of it. So I said that I'll get people telling me that they've put stuff in the recycling bin because they want to recycle it. Well, why do they think that piece of plastic should be recyclable? Because they don't understand the material science behind it. So for me, if people can come to our Precious Plastic lab and get hands-on with the materials, they'll understand more about the properties and why some stuff's easier to recycle. And I hope then they take that away with them and go, actually, no, I don't need to buy that plastic water bottle. I've got a perfectly good tap at home. And it's making those connections between the product they use and then the processes, because it's not just a case of throwing it in your bin and that's it, done, it's not my problem anymore. And I want people to link those processes up and start thinking where they need to take responsibility in the nicest possible way for their actions and their behaviour. Is this purely for children? No, originally the child education aspect was just going to be a bonus. Having a actual education department, as it were, of St Nick's is relatively new. Most of our outreach work is done through like our ecotherapy projects or visiting local WI sessions and things like that. But we just realised with how hands-on and creative this was, it made sense to start it, well, to focus more on the kids. I don't know if you've got more to say about that, Esther.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what comes to my mind is, I keep coming back to this experimental, try stuff, see what works, because there's obviously, you know, so many different ways to solve a problem. So we're looking at it from this point of view. Here's where we're starting. Here's the avenues we're exploring. You know, we're already a collection point. We've got the funds and space to set up as a workplace. These are the kind of obvious first steps we're taking. What I'm really excited about is what are other people going to do? So, you know, we know there are kind of makers communities, there are designers, you know, there are students doing all kinds of different interesting courses. That's where I'm interested in seeing the impact. You know, you can imagine, can't you, a school where they come and do a workshop and the whole class collects different types of plastics over a month. You know, great, that's lovely. But wouldn't it be even better? You know, they come and make some nice stuff and that's great. But wouldn't it be even better if they just start doing that and they have their own stuff set up? And when you get your, you know, new phone, you get a phone case that you've all designed together there out of waste. So that's what it's that kind of exponential impact that I'm interested in and looking at all of the different angles. You know, Joel say, oh, right, well, I'm doing green mentoring. Could it fit with my project? So it's not just us making a few little things or having a few different projects. It's spreading the connections for sure.
Cool.
So we have got to time. I mean, obviously we started late, we can go a little bit over. Be really interested to know what your answer is to question 4 of the quiz. So please do contact us if you're interested in getting involved. I'll just slap in the chat again our Precious Plastic Facebook page. That'll be a great place to chat. We're also obviously contactable via St Nick's, so it's info@stnicks.org.uk. But yeah, thank you so much for coming. If anyone wants to hang around, then really happy to talk in more depth.